Hey.
At the Hidden Jackpot Dealcast from Florida, we have guests. We have the Duke. John Wayne's here. He's in Florida too. Oh, Florida up. Wherever you are around the country, it's not as nice as it is here. So we're only doing Florida today. All Florida, all day. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's everybody doing? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you joining us. Stevie B's still gone away. So he's still in North Carolina. They don't have internet in North Carolina, apparently. So he refuses to join the show.
Unlimited PTO at GovSpend.
Holding it down. Dre, say hi to the people. What's that?
Do you tell all your interviewees we have unlimited PTO?
That's what anything. That's the last thing. It's like the closing salvo. You know, you're like, oh, hey, you could, you know what we do. Isn't that most companies nowadays, though? Isn't it like, hey, everybody's work from home. What do you really need to do? Isn't it? Isn't that everybody? Yeah. Everybody's work from home. Welcome, everybody. So today we're really blessed to have John Wayne here. Not the John Wayne for you old timers, but John Wayne that makes business happen. So we will bring him here in just a second. You will love his background both in private and public world. And so super blessed to have John here today. And so if you have any comments or questions during the show, put them in below, and we'll make them happen. We'll make them happen.
Yeah, real Southern. We'll make them happen.
A little Southern. I was hanging around some of my Southern relatives this weekend. So, and then we're actually going to go over the 6 myths. So we spent the last couple shows talking about the 10 myths of selling to the government. So today we're going to start the show. Unless, Trey, you have any other stories you want to tell? Somebody's having a birthday this week.
Well, no, I had my sister's bridal shower last weekend, though. That was really fun. It came out beautiful.
And where was it? In Orlando?
Orlando.
And somebody else is having a birthday, aren't they?
Yeah, on Thursday.
Who's that?
Me.
How old?
You can never ask a lady her age.
You're not allowed to ask that. It violates some.
That's totally against HR. I know, I'll be 30. It's weird.
Woo! So on the Thursday, join the show. We're having a big birthday party. I'm not sure Dre's going to be here or not. She told me before this. She goes, I'm not doing the show. My birthday. Are you kidding? I got big things going on. Big things. She was going to go do big time vacation. Someone that all got skedaddled, right? So we're skedaddled for a little while. So
yes,
that's all right. It'll be back. 2020, memorable, all of it. So appreciate Stevie B. Hope you're out there. Hope you're doing well in North Carolina. So I mentioned we were doing the 10 myths. And so today we're at myth number 6. So Dre, turn it over to you. You're the best myth reader there is in the country.
Wow. Myth number 6. You need a large or dedicated team to respond to government procurement opportunities.
You can't imagine during the pre-meeting, they're like, read the myth and then shut up. Everything's going to be, we're going to play the beaker blast. So just something we got to do to keep it lively around here. It's certainly not the topics. So
what do you think about that?
Hey, well, listen, we actually, what does that say? Need a business team representative responsible. Right. So listen,
you got to get the GovCast team to get you some glasses. Can't read that?
I can't read all those words, but listen, it's, I think folks, when they think about selling to the government, because the government's so bureaucratic, people are like, oh, we're going to need a big team. We're going to need this. We're going to need like a dozen people if we're going to pursue government business. And it really is not true. And so what we really recommend for most folks, they have a team of, it typically takes a couple folks, right? If you just send a solo artist out there and say, go win us some government business, that could be really tough, honestly. And so we recommend folks have a team of 3 to 4 folks. And we typically recommend the makeup of that team is really having one good writer, organizer, right? The government typically has a lot of forms, a lot of written material they want. They want your background, and sometimes you're responding to a bid and RFP, or even if you're not doing a bid and RFP, there's typically forms and a lot of kind of writing. Sometimes sales folks are not great at filling in the blanks and doing all the forms, right? So you typically want a writer, someone that's really good at organization. We then typically recommend you have a 1 or 2. We typically recommend 2 kind of inside sales folks that can call out to government agencies and introduce your product, your company to the agency. If you follow this show, or if you go back and watch some of our previous shows, everyone that we have on, right, Jay, from the government, it's like, I'm looking for vendors. When I need things, how do I find stuff, right? Isn't that what they talk about all the time? They're like, hey,
For sure. Again, a lot of times these agencies just don't know what they don't know, right? So they might know just a couple of the main companies who they've worked with, and more than likely they're going to keep working with those same companies
Yes.
unless you introduce yourself,
Yes.
right? So a lot of times I talk to companies, they're like, yeah, well, they never heard of us and they're probably working with the same companies. I'm like, so are you just not going to call them? You know what I mean? Like a lot of times they just don't know who they don't know. And so I think what you said is perfect. You don't need this huge team to tackle the government. You really don't. But on the flip side, you're likely not going to have a ton of success if you just have one solo person calling all across the country. So I think having a couple folks is really the best way. And then you can have people working on the different roles, like Jack was saying.
Yeah, there's so much data. We mentioned a couple of shows ago. When you sell to private industry, you're searching for gold. You're trying to find little nuggets of information. In the government world, it's the exact opposite. There's a ton of information out there about how to sell to the government, what they're buying, how much they pay, what's their budget, all this information. So it's more about, hey, which one of those represent a good target for you? And so again, we recommend a writer, an organizer. We recommend 2 inside sales folks that are good on the phone, can reach out, particularly now during COVID, introducing your product over the phone, email, social media, like, hey, folks that'll reach out. And then we typically recommend 1 traditionally outside sales rep. Now, during COVID, that could be a little hit or miss, right? Because some agencies don't want you to come visit. But if you're selling something big, big dollars, they typically still want to see you. Like the folks that were setting up the PPE tents and the testing facilities, they typically still want those vendors to come in and they want to meet them and talk about them and see some of their product samples and what does it look like. And so non-COVID, it's typically an organizer, writer, 2 inside sales reps, and then a outside sales rep that can kind of go meet with folks, put a face to a name. And that core team of 3 to 4, I promise you can go crush in the government market, literally, particularly because we always recommend you start in the state and local agencies. And they're just a lot more accessible. You can reach out to them, send them your stuff, and just make them aware of who you are. Because as Trey mentioned, they want to know good companies. They're trying to find good companies that do good work. And it's hard. Like all they're doing is Googling, just like when you and I, like we're trying to find a vendor. They're going to Google, I need somebody that does mask. And they're hitting Google. And so if you're able to predispose them to your company, what they'll typically do is, oh, we need generators. Oh, Bobby emailed me the other day, generators, here they are, right? And so that's the biggest part of marketing and selling to the government is just making them aware of your company, right? Because they don't know. They typically they'll be predisposed to using who they used before, right?
Definitely. And there's sales is sales, right? Not to say, right? If you can sell a widget, you can likely sell X is what a lot of times people are saying. You got to learn the skill of, or what is that? The skill of sales? What is that word I'm thinking of? Art. The art.
Big Don would tell you, the president would tell you
the art of sales. However, there's definitely a little bit of tweaks to it when selling to the government. It's not the exact same as selling to private, but if you can hire some folks who have some experience with sales already and who have done well in that market, transitioning them over to the public sector is not going to be rocket science.
Yeah. The bonus will be if you have those 4 people good at sales, good foundation, if 1 or 2 of them can have a little background in selling to the government and maybe have a little network, Rolodex, blah, 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 super helpful, but not needed. Maybe if you're selling a high-end thing or trying to get into a big-time agency, obviously the whole lobbying network thing could really help. But if you're just trying to sell to the agency down the street and you sell landscaping or painting or whatever it is, like, you don't need you don't need to know the mayor and the city council members. Like they're looking for the best solution and, they want folks to come in and do good work for them. And so always, we'll bring John in. Always remember, listen, the government is very risk adverse. They want a solid vendor that'll do good work. The worst thing for them is they pay somebody, they don't do good work, and then the agency kind of takes a black eye from the public's perspective. So you're trying to do good work. It'll grow, word of mouth, make it all happen. Amen?
Definitely.
Great. That's a great setup. So we want to bring in John Wayne the second, by the way. John Wayne, welcome. He's the CEO of GrowMyBusiness.com. John, as rugged as the original John Wayne. Thank you, sir. How you doing? Great to see you. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Another day in paradise. Thanks for having me.
Hey man, what's happening behind you there? You got to give the audience the little
it's busy. Happening? I got Batman. I got C3PO hanging out with me today.
Is that your normal background? If we're doing Zoom calls, is that what you're throwing at folks?
Oh, well, it depends. There's a lot to look at in this room.
Hey man, look, that's how you get someone's attention, right? Big fan of. We always talk about doing things opposite. So you get in a boring background like I have or Dre has, but you look, John's making it happen. You see
Right.
that stuff will get someone's attention. As soon as you're locked in, you're like, here we go.
And I'll tell you one thing, pretty lady.
That's gotta show. That's gotta show it's gonna be. Tell your friends, get in. Look, get in early. So, John,
do you have anything cool in front of you too? Don't show me if it's weird, but like, is there anything else there too?
Definitely, there is. That's a definitely 360
It
operation.
goes all the way around.
100%.
There's a lot to look at.
Totally. Right. Total 360. Right.
That's super cool.
Yeah, look, see, get off my back. Look, GovCast team, when they talk about my office, I don't want to hear about it, right? That's
the music room.
Yes. John, can you tell folks about you, your background, your company, what you're doing now?
Well, I've been working in the government contracts arena for the last 10 years, specializing mostly in proposal writing, writing bids, proposals, solicitations. And, like you were just saying, it's not really brain surgery. It's not that different from selling in the private arena to the public arena, to the commercial, to the government arena. It's just that the government buys differently. The government wants, purchasing agents and CORs are humans, and humans are inherently lazy. Their job is to spend money, and it's not their money. Their job is to purchase things, and they just want to do their job as easily as possible and go home at the end of the day and watch reruns of Impractical Jokers. So what it really boils down to is giving them exactly what they want, and making it easy for them to buy.
Amen.
And once you get in the door and you do a good job and you get good scores and PPRs and CPARs and FAPIS and you earn that purchasing agent's trust, it will snowball. They will refer you to other purchasing agents and they'll continue to use you.
Yes. Can you talk about what does your firm do to help companies make it easy, right? Because our audience, mostly we target folks that hear about government sales, they're interested in government sales, but they're either reluctant or hesitant, or they've only done one or two deals. So how can they plug into your company, and how do you help them kind of get out of the gate and have success in this arena?
Well, it's a matter of understanding the system, really. I've got close to 500 videos, and probably more if I consider all the articles I've got on LinkedIn. If you search YouTube for John Wayne Contracts, I've got over 400 videos online. There's another 100 articles on LinkedIn. People watch these videos or read these articles sometimes for years. I've had people, 6 years ago start watching my videos and just now reach out to me. It's mind-boggling, but I watched every one of your videos. I know everything you know now. No, you knew everything I knew.
Right.
That's different. But that's just it. It's just the knowledge of using the system. They're afraid. A lot of people, when they think of the federal government, they think of this huge entity that they would never be able to sell to. And it's simply not the case. I've helped people who have no business being in business sell to the government. I have helped mom and pop shops in a one-man show sell to the government. Is it easier if you have a team? Yeah, absolutely. Just like you guys were saying, if you got a couple of salespeople and especially a proposal writer, someone who knows the documentation, for one person to do the entire process, it can be done, but it's daunting.
Yeah.
It's confusing, and obviously by yourself, you're only able to submit maybe 1 or 2 bids a day, versus having a team, you could submit possibly 10 a day.
Yeah.
And that's where the real skill comes in, is you need to submit enough bids until you win one.
Yeah. So true.
Once you win one, do a good job, get good scores, earn their trust. It will snowball, but you got to get in the door.
Yep. Just get in the door.
So I wanted to ask you something. So we were looking at your background prior, so I just wanted to get to know a little bit about who you were, and I saw you've helped with both private and public sector business. So what would you say is the biggest difference between working with the two?
Well, first of all, I've been a business owner several times in my life, and got that close to just success, and then something went wrong and right out the door. When I was 18, I started a janitorial company and I was killing it. I was, making 10, 20 grand a week as an 18-year-old. But
that can lead to bad stuff right there. Woo.
Yeah, and it's a blessing, because if it didn't happen the way it did, I probably would have put my Ferrari into a tree already. One of my employees stole turkeys the day before Thanksgiving from the restaurant. and you don't miss turkeys the day before Thanksgiving, and the knucklehead stole like 8 out of 16 turkeys. So it was blatant that something was wrong. He stole T-shirts and a phone off the wall. So needless to say, I lost that account, and that wound up costing me all the rest of my accounts. I've owned businesses before I got into, specifically the government and proposal writing. I owned an event company, Big Mouths, and we did any kind of event. We did a lot of corporate events. We were doing events for the government, which is how I had to learn what CCR and ORCA was back in the day in order to get paid. And that was my introduction to working with the government. Of course, in 2008, the housing market crashed.
Yep.
And people stopped spending money on things like events, particularly. They stopped having birthday parties and bar mitzvahs, and they cut their budget way back.
Like now, it's a replay right now we're going through.
Yeah, the same thing. A lot of weddings got postponed because, and that hurts the event company. So, long story short, 2008, we did 2007, we did $500,000. 2008, we didn't even hit 50,000 by June because of the housing market. So there's things that are outside of our control, but that is the beauty of selling to the government. No matter what happens, the federal government keeps spending, and in most cases, they spend more.
Yeah.
They spent more during this COVID. They spent more during the housing market crash. When there's a problem, the government's answer is let's spend more money to fix it.
Yeah. Listen, one of the things we've been saying for a long time, government buys everything, definitely, is
everything. There's nothing the government does not buy. And I can tell you, I've seen some strange purchases.
Amen. Like during COVID, listen, government is the savior during the next year or so. Like we always talk about, they buy everything, right? And like literally they always pay, which is one of the biggest things. Like, so a lot, like we talk about all the time, folks right now, there's so many folks right now have contracts signed. They're counting on getting paid in the fourth quarter. They're never going to get paid. Never going to get paid. And so it's like, great, you're banking on a bankrupt company that's about to go belly up. And so not only is the government going to buy a ton of stuff, they definitely buy whatever you sell, right? Yeah. And they're going to pay you. So it's just that dynamic makes it such an advantageous market to go after for the next year, because who knows what things are going to look like in March, April 2021. You know what I mean? We're just rolling the dice. We're like, good luck.
Usually they buy everything. They buy everything. I got a client who used to sell yo-yos to the government.
Amen.
Yeah. And I thought, for who? For Congress?
Yeah.
No, he sells the yo-yos to like federal parks, the Redwood National Forest. He makes yo-yos out of redwood. He brands their logo on it. They resell them in their gift shop. So, it makes perfect sense. There was a contract I found one time where the government was paying somebody to destroy illegally seized marijuana, like $67 million to destroy. And at the same time, they're buying $80 million worth of medical grade marijuana same day. I've got clients that are like, I would have destroyed it for them.
Right. Yeah. I'll take the contract. Right. It's gone. It's all gone. Sorry. Thank you. That's my new CBD store. Hey, you're in them. So what's your best and worst contractual experience, John, so far? So obviously you have an extensive experience in the process. Anything really stick out from a positive and then a negative side, like experience you've seen folks go through, helping our audience kind of deal with things so they don't have to repeat maybe some of those mistakes and maybe repeat some of the victories you've seen?
There's actually a complex algorithm here that I can hurt people as much as I can help them. Mm-hmm. If you take on a contract that's too big, or too many contracts. Oh,
that's great. That's a great point. Yeah.
It's a great problem to have. Success is awesome, but if you get a contract that's too big or you take on too many at once and you cannot fulfill them properly, then I'm not doing you any favor by helping you win too much. So there's a balance there. It's helping businesses grow respectfully and not grow too fast that they outgrow their own pants.
That's a great point. The government buys a ton, right? If you get a big order, like you might be great at making widgets, but if you win something with the DoD and you got to send it to all their naval bases across the world, you may not be great at shipping and getting it out of your plant. So now you're screwed, right? You now have this great excitement that's become a huge liability and can put you under. So
and the government frequently underguesstimates. They rarely overguesstimate. They always underguesstimate. If they say they need 10 to 50 of something this year, they're probably going to take 150.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. So, someone might take on a contract knowing that they can build 100 of these widgets in a month, but the government, asked for a quote on 100, but they're going to want 563 the first month.
Yeah. Does your firm help them? Like, what parts of the process? I know you mentioned the proposal part and the pricing. What are you looking for from a client? So if folks in the audience are looking to come work with your firm, is there an ideal client profile that you're looking to, or when someone shows up to the door, you're like, yes, want to work with you? And are there folks you would turn away and be like, hey, you're not ready yet?
I turn away more business than I accept. I can tell you that. People will come to me and they think they're ready, and they're not. And I'll tell them why they're not. It's the old GSA thing. There's 100 companies in Florida that sell GSAs, and most of these scumbags will sell a GSA to anyone, whether they need it or not.
Yeah.
It's sad because it's just straight up greed.
Yep.
If you're not ready for GSA, you don't need to be on a GSA.
Yep.
You need the past performance to back it. GSA requires that you have you fulfill a certain amount of volume per schedule, and if you don't hit that minimum volume, they can kick you off the schedule. It can be harder to get on later. So really the goal is to do this properly and to be ready to sell to the government, to not jump in head first, get your feet wet, do it right, but be ready.
Yeah, I would say for our audience, if you're the GSA, what we're talking about is, hey, you can get on the GSA schedule. There's a ton of vendors that'll charge you a ton of money to get you on the GSA schedule. So one, just being really selective. Do you really need somebody to help you? That's one. If you do choose somebody, are they of good quality so they can actually make it happen? But then thirdly, the thing that folks always fail on, like, oh, I'm on GSA, now the deals will just come raining in. Mm-hmm. Totally not true. So like John, you have to have some performance history. Hey, who are your references? Can you really deliver? And you start to do sales and marketing, and the GSA is just the last piece. You've gone to an agency. You sell widgets. They want your widgets. The last piece is, oh, you don't have to put out a bid and RFP. You don't have to go through that. We're on GSA. You can go buy it tomorrow. Like, it's the last piece, but you still have to do all your sales and marketing, right? There's no one's going to, once you're on the GSA the next day, deals don't just come raining in, right? But you still have to go out and do a lot of stuff. Like, that's what people don't understand.
GSA suggests once you get on a schedule, which can take up to a year to get on a schedule in some cases, they suggest you invest $75,000 to $100,000 a year in marketing on your schedule.
Wow, that's great.
So it's not you're going to get on a schedule and it's just going to fall in your lap. But I mean, it can be phenomenal if you're ready and it's the right situation.
It's a great price point to know. Like, that's such a great benchmark to have. Hey, once you're on the GSA, you need another $7,500 to actually market to it, right? To make sure that you're driving business through it. Because again, as you say, just a means to an end. It's the last piece to avoid a bid and RFP. So it's not creating any deal. You could be on GSA. Many folks, as John mentioned, have been on GSA for years, never gotten a deal, and just let it peter away. Many companies, like, I paid $5,000-$10,000 to get on GSA, nothing. They have no deal flow through it. Crazy.
No idea how to use it or what they need to do. They're just kind of shooting in the dark.
That's it.
Who's your typical client? Is it somebody who's never sold to the government before?
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of help them get their feet, kind of start running? Or do you help people who have already been in the business for a long time?
I've got three types of clients. I've got clients that, Fortune 500 companies, their business model is different. If they need something, they just pay for it. They don't have a cash flow issue. They'll come to me and say, we need this proposal written by next Tuesday. Here's $5,000. Please get it done. Mm-hmm. And that's their business model. They got money to throw around like that. They know they could, if they win this contract, it's $187 million a year for 5-year IDIQ, and they're going to make $10 million in profit off of it. They'll pay $5,000 to have a proposal written, no problem.
Yeah.
And they don't care to learn. They do their job, and we're going to pay you to write this for us, like you always do. Mm-hmm. I've got clients that they want to learn, but they're not in a position where they can share profits. They are also a Fortune 500 company, or Fortune 1000 company, or a mom and pop shop that grew really well in the last 5 years, and they're doing phenomenal, and they're ready to take it to the next level. And then I've got startup companies. I've got people that watch the War Dogs movie and come to me and go, man, I see War Dogs, and I want to do this. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, they're starting from scratch, which is fine. To me, it's if they have the drive to do it and they're willing to listen. The problem I
That's
run
right.
into is I got all this information up here in this thing, and I need to get this information from here over to these people over here and get it in their head. But just getting that information in their head is not enough. It's getting them to implement it and practice it religiously until it becomes second nature, until it becomes automatic is my difficulty.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, long story short, if someone comes to me and I think they're difficult and they're not willing to listen and implement what I'm going to teach them, I'm not going to take them on because I can't help them.
Yeah. No one wants any more difficult clients.
No, and it's not so much that they're difficult, but they're not going to listen and they're not going to implement what I teach them.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing about the government is very meticulous, right? Like I have some bad stories where like we had an agency wanted our solution, wrote the bid for us. It was our deal in California. We left out one form and they couldn't award to us. I mean, it was a big 6-figure plus contract. I mean, it was so painful. It was like, yep, you left out these 2 forms. You didn't finish this part. And it was like, oh, those are tough lessons to learn. So using a firm like John's or, somebody that can help you through the process can be amazingly helpful because you just lose one of those. You miss something along the way, miss one of the little nits. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like fishing stories. You could tell those forever, right? They're so crazy.
When I first got into this back in 2010, 2011, 2010, I was working with a client who was bidding on construction of a nuclear power plant. Now, you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar job. You're talking $200,000 just in site visits and blueprints that they invested to submit a bid.
Yeah.
Just, the money it cost them just to put the bid together to submit it was in the hundreds of thousands invested. And their proposal writer forgot to include the bid bond.
Oh.
One document they forgot to include, and that cost them the contract. And we did a debriefing. The purchasing agent said, look, you guys made an amateur beginner mistake. You forgot to include the bid bond. We couldn't hire you. You were our first choice. We wanted you, but we couldn't hire you without the bid bond. One of the things I teach my clients, which is not mandatory, but I have them include a signature page when they submit a bid. So if they do forget to initial a document or sign a page, the signature page covers all signatures on all documents. They've covered their butt.
Yeah. I would say for our audience too, the government, like in private industry, if somebody likes you, you have a relationship, they can get you the contract. But in the government world, they have to treat everybody equally. And they could love you, as John just told that story. They could love you as a vendor. They could love you. They might have known you for 10 years. But if there's some glitch administratively along the way, they literally have to go by the letter of the law, and they might not be able to award you the contract. Then you're like, well, yeah, they could. Well, those are all the people you see get fired. So if you could fire up Google as soon as we're done, and you just look at procurement scandals, people do that. They will be like, oh, you know what? They didn't put that thing in there, but I'm still going to give them the contract. And then a year or two later, they're getting fired, or they'll cover the paper, be like, Billy still awarded to his friend John, and then everyone gets fired. So they are very resident. They do not hesitant they're not going to award. They want to follow the letter of the law. So make sure, again, as you have your team together to sell to the government, make sure that there's at least that one person that's administratively strong, coordinate, double checks all the things. You can have some creative people, the sales folks, but make sure you have somebody that checks all the boxes, because it's a lot of work. You put in a year on a bid, or you put in hundreds of thousands of dollars on an effort, and it does not come to fruition, you are up at night. Those are the things that leave people, cause them to like jump off a bridge. Oh, good. So, John, can you, as folks, if our audience, most of them, if they've never done a government deal, they are starting to look around, and with COVID, they see it, they get it, they've been watching us for a while, blah, blah, blah. What is you have a recommendation on the first step or two you would recommend? So they have a good product, or they have a good service. What's your first piece of advice to guide them to help win them their first deal or two? They don't have any government business. How would they start? Are there certifications they should do? Do they just go talk to agencies? What is your advice? How do they get out of the gate well?
I do get a lot of people that come to me as a startup. I get a lot of retired veterans that they see the War Dogs movie and they think, I want to do this. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great encouragement, but they just want to come in and just start brokering everything. The old verbiage, the old adage, you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And that's fine, but it's more than just what you love. You need to do the research, number one. Do the research, find out what type of company you're going to have or what products you're going to broker. Knowing that you have a solid line of resources of suppliers is something a lot of guys run into. They get into this, they want to broker everything, and they're calling every supplier, trying to get a relationship built. And in the beginning, you need a strong relationship with one or two suppliers. So doing the research. once you've got the research out of the way, then you need to know all the processes and registrations that you need in order to work with the government. Registering with SAM and doing the old CCR and the ORCA and getting set up in the DSBS and doing your DBE and getting on a GSA schedule if you're ready, or do you need 8A or not? Are you qualified?
John, can you come back to those, a couple of those acronyms? Can you go through the SAM and the CCR? Can you just walk folks through that just quickly?
Absolutely.
Those acronyms.
CCR is Central Contractor Registration. CCR is basically the government's payment system. They migrated it into SAM back in 2012. It used to be its own entity. ORCA, which stands for Online Representation Certifications Application, ORCA, like the killer whale, is the government's legal side. It's the government's cover in their butt is what it is. And they have to if they're going to do business with you. That's the legal side of working with the government. SAM is basically just a portal that these systems are being migrated into. SAM was supposed to be, the full migration was supposed to be done in 2017. Part 5 is supposed to be done in 2017. They're still on Part 4 and it's 2020. So just to give you some idea of, the government does things slow and easy. They did outsource it. So FedReg, PPERS, CPARS, FAPIS, EPLS, all those systems are eventually going to be a part of SAM. They just migrated FPDS 2 days ago into SAM. Finally, they had a countdown on it. And unlike FBO, when they migrated FBO, they shut FBO down. It wasn't functional anymore. FPDS is still functional, even though it was migrated. So that could have some issue with the number of lately. There's been a lot of glitches in SAM. I don't know if you guys are experiencing this.
Yeah.
Trying to log in, or you're hitting search and it won't search. More than likely, it's because they just migrated FPDS in 3 days ago and they're having issues.
Yeah, everything's supposed to be in beta.sam.gov now, right? So beta.sam.gov is going to be where they want all of the data. It took FedBizOps and FPDS and all the other systems. They're trying to get it all in there, but it is a massive undertaking. And so that would be, if you're trying to do business with the federal government, beta.sam.gov. I wonder when they'll get rid of the beta piece, but it'll be sam.gov, where you're all the data sets, everything you need to do to win federal deals, you'll get all tied into those systems. So
yeah, USA Spending, they migrated over, what was it, about a year ago? Yep. But they left that one functional. Unlike FBO, they migrated FBO over and they shut FBO down.
Yeah,
it's a shame because FBO allowed you to search using Boolean logic, and beta.sam.gov does not.
Sound like you hate it.
Well, listen, all of it's new. Like we all get used to like the way FPDS worked and the ability to, it's like everyone gets used to a certain way. And when they import it, I think I've seen some of the posts online. Folks are a little frustrated. Some of the reports folks have had used for years. The government has these websites folks use for years to find prospects, to find leads. And now when it gets migrated in, the reports don't work, or they're using different logics. So folks are, you're just frustrated. That's the norm, you would think, as we try to centralize a system. It's like one of those things with the federal government. It sounds great in concept, but like when they go to execute it, it's a lot of moving pieces. And folks have had reports in other systems they've used for years that have just disappeared. Yeah. So eventually we'll get there. Like, it'll be nice to say to somebody, hey, if you're trying to do business with the federal government, go to sam.gov. It's all there. That'll be nice one day, but it's certainly not in the near term.
Well, this is my understanding of SAM. So this might explain a little bit of that as well. Apparently the same company that was building Obamacare is the one that's building SAM. Number one.
Not touching that.
Right. This is how I understand it. I may be wrong. My knowledge. The system, it's had issues. The Federal Service Desk was outsourced to a third party. That third party is the same company that's building SAM. Now, they get paid when there's an incident. So if there's a problem with your SAM, you have to call the FSD to get help. They're getting paid for that incident to get your help, but they're also the one building the website. So it's kind of a catch-22. The worst job, the worst of a job they do, the more calls they get, the more money they make.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good business model.
Yeah.
How does this affect business owners? Well, I put it to you this way. If the system's difficult and it's hard for people to use, then you're going to have less competition.
Yeah. There's a lot happening. And then you throw COVID on top of it, where no one's where they should be to get questions answered. It just turns into a lot, right? It's just a lot happening in the federal space. Does your firm John, do you guys work with folks selling to state and local as well, or do you just focus mainly on the federal space? Do you do any work in the state and local area?
Well, again, we've got the 3 business models: the proposal writing, the growth, teaching, education, coaching.
Yeah.
But we also have grow my business quick. The concept there is, I can not only just help you with federal, I can help you with state and local and county and city, but I could also show you, dude, you haven't set up your Google My Business. Your website's not ranking. All the things that I have to do as a business owner, I can teach my clients. And if they're willing to share a percentage of those profits, that's actually our business model that works the best, is we will share a percentage of the profits we help you make. So yes, we can help you outside of the Fed or state or local, county, city government, parish government. We could also help you with import, export, commercial, industrial, residential, etc.
There's actually a question from one of the folks in the audience. Michael says, "Hey, are there other systems out there that do the same thing?" I think I guess going back to the SAM.gov. So are there other systems? Do you direct folks anywhere else, John? Or are there other systems that
Actually,
are?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because it really ties into what we're talking about right now. There are, beta.sam.gov gives you federal opportunities that you can bid on. Most, if not all, the opportunities that the federal government are going to put out for bid go through beta.sam.gov. There's some stuff they're not going to put in there. It's top secret or high level security that you're not going to see. The government's never going to show you where all the money is spent in one system, period. But do you need to use, another system to find a state contract, and a different system to find a local contract, and another system to find a county contract, and there's all these other systems for different government agencies. There are services that are pulling data from those systems and combining it into one. And that is something that here in the next week or two, we've been planning on actually doing a comparison video on all the third-party systems that give people opportunities to bid on.
Oh, cool.
Because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
And they range anywhere from, 1,000 or 2,000 a year and upwards of 10, 20,000 a year.
Yep.
So yeah, there are multiple systems where you can find opportunities to bid on outside of the Fed, which again is primarily beta.sam.gov. And there's some of these systems that we're looking at that even track opportunities in other countries.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I got one more question for you. So I know a little bit ago we talked a bit about if you're working with like new companies, kind of where do you direct them? But what would you say maybe some common mistakes are with companies who have been in the industry for a while? So I know you mentioned before, like some of these companies may not want to necessarily implement what you're asking them to do. So are there any stories that you can tell about companies that have been in the industry a while, selling to the public sector, that are maybe doing things a little bit off?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, there's preconceived notion. People have this idea of the way things work, and they don't have the correct idea, but they're dedicated to thinking their way of thinking is correct.
Yeah.
So you gotta change their mindset.
Yeah.
You gotta get them, to relax on some things as well, not be so serious, because the government isn't that serious as people would think they are.
Yeah.
When people think about selling
just normal folks trying to get the job done. That's what it is.
Yeah. They're, purchasing agents, CORs and purchasing agents are humans. A lot of them are active or retired military. So they've already got a process beat into their head since boot camp that this is the way things work, and, do it right the first time, etc. The biggest issue that people have in going into this is the misconception of the way things work and what registrations they need, what registrations they don't, certifications they need, certifications they don't. We've got 100 scumbags in Florida selling GSAs. I had a client who, okay, this is a good story. When my daughter was born, a lot of my videos have from back in 2013, 2014, I had my daughter's picture on my desktop. And she's wearing a bib that says "Cake, please." When she was born, of course, I was out of work that week. I was at the hospital with her, and one of my clients bought a GSA for $25,000. The scumbag that sold her the GSA was to allow her to sell frozen foods to the federal prison system, right? She has a restaurant. She makes breakfast and lunch fresh every day. She's not going to sell frozen foods to the federal prison system. She's 86 years old, but she didn't know any better. The guy told her that if she didn't get on a GSA, that she was going to lose all of her business clients. And these are people that have been coming and eating in her restaurant for 10, 15 years. They're like her kids. She was in tears. She thought she was going to lose her clients. So she bought a GSA, even though she didn't need it. Now, fortunately, when I got back to work after my daughter was born, I was able to help her get her money back. And also, it's a felony in California to take advantage of an elderly person. So we were able to get them processed as well. That's the biggest downfall.
That's a real John Wayne story. See, there you go. That's old stuff.
Just a misconception, of what they need and what they don't, and how to get there. To use the right tools, to not have somebody selling you something you don't need.
Yep. John, how can folks in our audience reach out to you? What's the best way to connect? What are the resources you're offering to folks? What are all the ways to plug in? I know you have a couple different websites. I know you have the YouTube channel. Like, what are all the ways folks can ping you, reach out to you, promote yourself?
Best thing to do is go on YouTube and search John Wayne Contracts. There's over 400 videos. You gotta like my style of teaching, and a lot of people do. But there's a small percentage of the people that don't. I'll never hear from them. That's fine. I have a very rough style of teaching. I don't beat around the bush. I tell it like it is. And I don't. My videos are not, super professional. I don't have to go through my videos and edit them 10 times before I post them. I usually take one shot. I record it. There, done. So the first thing I would suggest is go to YouTube, search John Wayne Contracts. See if you like my style of teaching. There's 400 plus videos out there. There's plenty of data. And if you do, then maybe I can help you. Then the next step would be to, for us to talk and see if there's a good way that I can help you.
Great. Well, there it is. Yeah. So we're going to actually add that link. It'll be in the link below for the audience, so they can, you can find John on YouTube. It's awesome. And growmybusinessquick.com and johnwaynecontracts.com, correct?
Yes. And growmybusinessquick.com. The business model there is that we would like to share a percentage of the profits we help you win for the first year. John Wayne Contracts is more about, writing and training. And then we also have professionalproposalwriters.com, which is just as straight up, you're going to pay us. We're going to write a proposal for you. You don't want to learn nothing. You just want to pay us to do it. And that's fine too.
Yeah. So many folks are like, yeah, just go win me the money. Just go, I'll execute on it later. Just win me the money.
I'd rather teach you how to do it for you. You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, he may stay drunk in a boat, but he can feed himself.
Amen. Amen. Any last comments, thoughts, suggestions, anything we've missed, anything you'd want to share with the audience, John?
Again, if you're not currently selling to the government, do your research. Do the research to know that this is something you definitely want to do. Yeah. If you're a startup, do a lot of research if you're a startup. If you search John Wayne Contracts on YouTube, you can watch videos till you're blue in the face, and they're all business related. It's free. Do your research. Find other people that do what we do and look at their style. I'll have people that'll come to me and say, I watched 100 videos before I found yours. Now I don't watch anyone else. I only watch you exclusively, and that means a lot. That means a lot to me that they have that. They believe in me that much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Someone believes in me, I'm not going to let them down.
That's great. Thank you so much again. John's over in the Clearwater area on the western part of Florida. Thank you so much. Love, you can tell that guy's a character. If you need help in the government world, or you're doing some things outside the government, he's the guy. Ping John Wayne. You'll see him both on YouTube and the couple sites you mentioned. Amen. Thank you, John, so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
God bless.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. There's so many good things in there. Like, I think folks, they feel like this government is so challenging, and there's folks like John out there that'll help you. And you can tell, like, John's a no BS guy. And like that, some folks love that style. Some folks want all the pomp and circumstance and what have you. But, ultimately it's about, can you win deals? And he's been a ton of success winning companies, government deals, right? That's ultimately what it's about. You can look the part or whatever. You can have the big office, all those things, but it's ultimately, can you create deal flow? Because again, for our folks out there, please don't let somebody suck you into a GSA contract or some business development contract or all this stuff. You can literally put some kickers at the end to make sure they deliver a deal or two, because once you have the first deal, it'll explode, right? And do good work.
Moral of the story, do your research.
Yes, there's a ton of stuff out there. So, hey, just some loose ends. Stevie B, I think, look, I think the GovCast team, look, Stevie B hanging out in North Carolina. Look, I think is that him on the edge of that rock? Oh,
that's
my
scary.
God. That is so scary. Oh, geez. So I guess in North Carolina, that's one of those things, like, hopefully that rock doesn't cut off one day. So he's still live. He reported sending that photo. And then, listen, John mentioned, hey, they're talking about all the service providers that are in and all the different bid systems that are in the government marketplace. So great tie-in. Listen, on October 28th, we're having a webinar. We're really going to give folks 6 resources that'll help you sell to the government. As you talk about and start to put together your plan for selling to the government, on this webinar, it's really going to be super content-based, no BS. We're going to give you all the technologies are out there that you need to go sell to the government. All the different service providers that we were just talking about. What are companies that will help you do business with the government? We're going to give you what the top websites you can use to access some of the data when you're doing your research, right? There's all these resources out there we're going to help provide you. We're going to do the trade shows, right? So just for registering, so link is below. Just for registering, we're going to send you the top trade shows in the government sales marketplace, both industry and government. We're also going to have all the organizations. What organizations are out there? Which ones should you join? Which ones should you network with? We're also going to give you a set of infographics that have all the, what are the budget dates and how do you sell to the government? And what are some of the numbers? Like how much is the government spending? All of the breakout. What are the types of agencies? So a ton of information, because when we did our first webinar, folks were like, I love it. But you know what? It's really too late in the year. I got to get in my 2021 plan. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a webinar that's going to get all the information you need to actually bring government sales into your 2021 sales plan. We want to give you a bunch of data to do that. So that's ultimately the goal now. It'll be super rich content, probably about half an hour, 45-minute max, but just giving you a bunch of things you can use to develop your 2020 sales plan. And Dre, are you going to stop in? Like you've been officially invited to host again?
I'll do it. Stay tuned.
You're going to help you'll make all those things happen again?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday at noon. Yeah, so next Wednesday at noon. Don't miss the webinar. One of the most informational things you can do. We'll make it super quick. We're not going to bore you with a bunch of BS content. Good? It'll all be super important things to help you put together your 2020 sales plan, all focused on the government. All right. Thanks, John Wayne. Appreciate it. John Wayne the second. See you all Thursday for our next show. We will have a great week. We'll have some more information about myth number 7, how to do big things in the government space. See you Thursday. Stevie B, hopefully he'll be back. And Dre will be Thursday.